First of all, introducing our challenger.
Out of the blue corner.
He's going to step in and he does. It's all over.
Let's bring on the boom.
This is Eternal MMA.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Eternal Insiders. My name is Luke, and as always, I'm your host, and I'm being joined today by the newly crowned Eternal Flyweight Champion, Anthony Drilich. Anthony, first of all, brother, thank you for joining me on the show for the very first time, and second of all, how does it feel? How does it sound to be called the Eternal Flyweight Champion?
Yeah, it's something different. Obviously, worked hard to get here. It's funny you mentioned about becoming champion, because I was at Scrappy the other day, and you say g'day your mate or hey champ,
Yes.
and you hear it around, and obviously now when they say hey champ, I'm like, actually yeah, now I am champ. I guess you can call me that. I guess so. Yeah.
So it's champ from now on. I mean, it's Anthony to family and friends, but I mean, inside the training room, it's to everyone else watching. It's champ. We got that belt now. It's champ.
That's it.
I love it, brother. I love it. Now, just on that one, man, before we talk about the fight, obviously this is a vacant title that you came in and fought for. Stephen Erceg, of course, he was the previous holder of that one. He went on to the UFC. Definitely one of our more illustrious champions that we had, very well respected. You guys are Perth guys, yourself a Perth guy. I mean, you fought Frankie's a Perth guy, Stephen, of course, a Perth guy. Was there anything in terms of much significance for you for, being the one to kind of, come in after Stephen and be the one to capture that belt? Given everything we just talked about there in terms of that significance.
Yeah, so I'm friends with Steve. I train with him. Steve's a great guy. So he's on to bigger and better things. So I guess I was next in line. And obviously Frank was the guy I was fighting, so it had to be him. Of course, being another WA guy, it's a bittersweet kind of moment. Great to win. Obviously take that belt. But yeah, if I can beat another guy out of Australia, that'll even be better.
I mean, 3,100 fans we had packed in for that building, man. I mean, HBF Stadium, you fought there a couple of times. I mean, you can talk ad nauseum about this, but I mean, what was that crowd like for you guys? I mean, so much support in the building for a couple of Perth guys. We know what they've been like for guys like Stephen Erceg, we just mentioned everything. Like, what was that atmosphere like? Did that sort of have any effect for you on the fight? Like, what's it like, for two Perth guys going in there and just and putting it on, being as popular as you guys are?
I love HBF. Obviously the crowd there seemed, well, for my fight anyway, seemed that they're going for my opponent a lot more. Obviously you can hear their chanting, but yeah.
To be fair, like Frank the Tank rolls off the tongue a little bit. If we can find something for Anthony Drilich, we'll find something from the chant about, surely, yeah?
Yeah, it does work well with him. Yeah, even Frank the Tank does work. So, yeah. Can't really say much other than, it got me excited. Every time I fought there, I seem to enjoy myself. It's a good vibe there.
It's definitely a good vibe, man. I want to talk a little bit about the build up to this one too, because obviously this was your first fight coming in as a flyweight, which means the first time, cutting weight to, make weight and compete as a flyweight. How did that affect your preparation and your mindset coming to this one? Like everything in terms of the build up to the fight, did much have to change for you, in terms of like diet, preparation, any strength and conditioning training, like everything building up before you sort of walk out? What sort of effect did that have for you coming in and making weight as a professional for the first time as a flyweight?
So I have Peter Miller as my nutritionist. So I've had him for my last few fights. So I trust him. Everything he does for me, nutrition-wise, has worked. And I just trust in his process. Obviously, coming down weight to 57, I've been 57 or can't remember, probably when I was 12 years old or something. It can play with your mind a bit. I don't know whether I'll be too fatigued or this or that or tired or weak. So coming down, I got to 61. So pretty much my so-called fight weight, bantamweight. Once I was there, I felt good. And I was like, all right, well, only a few more kilos and I'll be sweet. And yeah, once I got to the fight day, I made weight. I felt great. Got the weight cut done well. There was no real problems with this camp, so I was happy, especially being obviously a title fight and all.
I mean, just on that, as far as like getting down to that weight, Do you think there's sort of any more that you can do to refine that process, or do you think you pretty much nailed it first time? Was there any hurdles in terms of making the weight, or did it all seem pretty natural for the first time doing it?
It did feel natural, yeah. I was surprised. There's obviously, the camp goes on, there are going to be hiccups. There's things that you might be worried about. Maybe you're not losing weight quick enough, but it just went down steadily. And yeah, there was no real problems with my weight for this. And once I got there, I was like, well, I guess I am a flyweight, So I started heavy. Obviously, like when I started fighting years ago, 77 kilos. So I started at welter, worked my way down, 75, 70, 66. And I just keep going down. And then I got to flyweight. So thankfully, there's no other lower weight divisions. I'd probably end up there as well. So.
I mean, we've got atom weight, but I think that might be exclusively for the girls over in Asia, that sort of thing. So I don't know if we can go much further. Well, welterweight you fought up at. I thought featherweight was the heaviest that you fought at. You fought at welterweight. Was that something maybe you're doing in the amateurs? I took a look at the pro record and as heavy as I could see it was featherweight. But welterweight you fought at.
First fight I fought at 77, I believe.
Unreal.
Like 16, 17 years old, chunky and just ready to throw down. And obviously got put in there with a grown-ass man. And I was like, oh, well, this is real now. And luckily I went in there and knocked him out in 10 seconds. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can do this. Now I just got to lose a bit more weight, of course, because I'm sick of versing dudes that are just way bigger than me. Obviously, 77 kilos.
And then what, did we go down to lightweight from there? Like, did you travel all the way down through the weight classes?
If I can remember rightly, I had a couple fights at an amateur. I think one was at 75, then maybe a catch weight at like 71 or 72, then 66, then just worked my way down from there.
I mean, you're on that Volkanovski trajectory, man. I mean, he stopped at featherweight. I mean, you kept going right through to the bantamweights and now the flyweight division there, man. So, I mean, kudos to you. Like, was that always the game plan for you? Or when did it kind of become, I guess we talk about flyweight because you're a flyweight champion now, and I guess this is your home, but was there sort of a point in your career, maybe once you got to featherweight as a professional, where you thought, all right, it's going to be a couple of fights at bantamweight and then we're going down to flyweight? Did you think maybe bantamweight was going to be your home? When was sort of the part for you when you decided this is going to be your home? Because I know you said after the Jamie Renew fight that you were going down to flyweight anyway. Was that always the plan?
That was, well, only recently, really, like the last few fights, I was able to get to 61 way too easy. And I was like, my brother mentioned it. Ben Vicks, my coach, mentioned it. And I was like, yeah, I believe I can get down to flyweight. I think it wouldn't be too hard. And here I am down to flyweight now and winning the title. So, yeah, one of those things.
And does the power come with you down to flyweight, man? I mean, it looks apparent to us watching at home that the power is definitely there. But I mean, how does it feel for you in terms of carrying that power down from those heavier weight classes?
Yeah, I had it on my mind, like maybe being so light, I might not be as obviously physically stronger as well as being able to have that punching power. But once I was in there fighting Frank, I felt sharp. I felt light on my feet. I felt good. And it seemed like every time I was able to catch him with a shot, I was able to like do some damage, whether I'd drop him or move him. So yeah, I felt good. Felt like I really had that power still.
And I mean, was that part of the game plan to come in early and sort of look to start you? Because it started very tense in those first sort of few exchanges in the cage, and you caught him a couple of times. You dropped him once or twice, I'm pretty sure, from memory in the fight. And then it kind of sort of settled in, and it looked like as the rounds went on, you looked like maybe you were sort of looking to pick him off and walk him onto your shots and that sort of thing. Was the game plan to come in there and try to beat him in the first round, and then it changed? How did it sort of change as the fight went on, as far as what you envisioned for the fight going versus what it sort of transpired to be before the end of the fight?
So it was a 5-5 round, obviously championship round. So I didn't want to go balls to the wall straight off the bat and get a little too crazy and burn myself out. Then next minute I'm in the 4th or 5th round, getting beaten up. So I was lucky I was able to I felt like I could read him well. I was able to get some obviously good shots. I was able to drop him early. And from there I was like, all right, well, he's still there. I'll just take my time. Everything seems to be working. I'm feeling good. And I just went from there, started to work him, obviously in the first round, dropped him a couple times. And I was like, right, well, this is working. I might stick this for a bit, see if I can hopefully knock him out, maybe like towards the end of the first or second round. And, but yeah, obviously didn't go that path, which I'd like. Obviously a good knockout's always nice, but yeah, I stuck to that, and it seemed to work well for me.
I mean, was there sort of a part in the fight, when you sort of started to settle things down for yourself and you were catching him like so many times, it looked like he was sort of holding his chin up in the air. Was there something you identified sort of partway through the fight where, something in his game in terms of maybe things that he wasn't necessarily doing right? And, from like a fight IQ perspective, did you feel like you just sort of had the edge and you sort of maybe grew in confidence as the sort of the fight went on that A, you'd win the fight, but B, you'd eventually sort of get the fight done in terms of a finish?
So I felt like Frank was doing well. I had to change a little bit. He was obviously throwing a lot. He's putting a lot of output, especially with his kicks. So I was really weary, especially going towards the past the third round. I was like, all right, well, I better pick this up now. I don't know whether in the judges' eyes, because of his output, him throwing out more kicks, they may point him more, things like that. He obviously got a takedown early as well. So I was like, all right, well, this is working, lining him up, getting some good shots on him. But yeah, after the third round, when I sat down, I was like, all right, I'm feeling good. Got 4 and 5 rounds. Let's pick this up. And obviously, well, halfway through the fourth, I was able to get the submission. So, but yeah, after that, I was like, all right, I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to put some more combos down range and go from there, hopefully put him out.
No, you definitely lean on all facets of your game, man. I mean, from a mixed martial arts perspective, like your striking's on point. I mean, the heaviest hands in the flyweight division, as it says on your Instagram page there. I mean, yeah, obviously you've got the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. The grappling was strong. Wherever the fight sort of wanted to go in the later rounds, or for yourself where you wanted to take it, you kind of took it, and that ultimately led to the submission. But let's say we don't get the submission. I want to talk about that after this one. But how fresh were you sort of feeling? We talked about the cut down to flyweight and everything. You mentioned at the start, that's obviously a 5-round fight, and that's what you're preparing for. Did you feel like if the fight went on that you would have gone the 5 rounds comfortably?
Yeah. So if I can recall, after sitting down after the third round, I sat down and I was like, all right, well, my heart rate's not gone crazy. I'm not gasping for air. I feel great. Corner's like, all right, time to pick it up. And I was like, yep, let's do it. And yeah, worked my way into the 4th round, felt great. And I believe, yeah, if it went all the way, I would have been able to put them away, or at least just go the distance and get some good output. Felt like I was as the rounds went on, I felt like I was only getting better, and like I was able to really not relax, but I was able to put more punches out as time went on as well and grapple harder. I can put a lot more output on things without having to be concerned about, gassing, especially being a 5'5" and being first time at 57 kilos.
Well, it didn't have to go the 5 rounds, man. But I mean, from my perspective, it definitely looked like if you didn't get the finish, that you definitely could have kept it going on. So, but you did get that rear naked choke win. Can you talk us through the sequence there? Because there was a couple of times through those couple of rounds leading up to it where you had him in that sort of position where he was on the ground and you had that control from his back. But in the 4th round, you sunk the hooks in. You took his back straight away. You put that choke in. It looked from the TV perspective that it was almost sort of a crank on the jaw and that it wasn't quite underneath the neck. But I mean, ultimately, Frank had to tap there. Can you talk us through what you sort of felt? Did you feel like it was go time as soon as you put the hooks in? Walk us through that submission and what you sort of felt from your perspective.
So I got on his hips. I think it might have been on the 2nd round, and I was like, all right, I could probably get something here. There was really no opportunities. I can give it to Frank. He's like a coiled spring, that guy. Once I even got on his hips, the moment I let off a little bit, I was like, all right, he's loading up. So I try to slow things down, grind him out a bit. Got to the 4th round and he had his arm hanging there. So he sat up. I think it was in a seated position. He had his left arm hanging down. I was like, all right, now's the time. Threw that hook in, trapped his arm, dragged him into his side. Then threw the rear naked choke in. Though it didn't look like it was the greatest choke, like it was right under his chin, and it was a picture perfect choke. I felt like my bicep and forearm was right up on his throat and like his carotid artery. So once I got there, I could hear him gargling a bit, and I was like, all right, well, I've got something here. I'm just going to keep that pressure going. I reckon I can still put him out fine. And yeah, I was able to get it.
No, I mean, another testament to that power coming with you down to flyweight, man, because it did look, even though it looked like it was on the jaw, it looked painful, and you could see the look on Frank's face. And credit to him, it looked like he wanted to hang in the pocket there and try to stay, but I mean, the strength on you, man. I mean, it just looked incredible. And you got the win done by that finish, and you've had a number of finishes in your career. Just tell me about, as far as assessing that performance, how happy were you with that one? I mean, you're on the 4-fight win streak now, including this one. You had that big-time knockout win against Michael Barber at Eternal 68, and you weren't so happy with your performance with the last one against Jamie Renouf before you got this title fight, but you corrected the ship, and you kind of mixed in a little bit of everything from your last few fights. Didn't go all the way to the distance, wasn't an early knockout, but I mean, you had some stellar moments there back and forth through this fight and ultimately got the finish. How happy were you overall with this performance for your first title win?
Yeah, I took really no damage. I was able to put damage on my opponent. He wasn't able to get it off, I'm sure, what he would like to on me. So I felt like it was a great performance. I did everything that we went over and trained for. Stuck to the game plan, really. Adapted when I needed to. Of course, I'd like to put out more punches and make it a lot more exciting. And yeah, sure, I'm sure the fans would love to see us just trading shots and throwing down at each other. But hey, it's a title fight, 5-5s. I'm gonna try to pace him and not get damaged. And if it comes down to that where we're both trading, hopefully I can get the better punches off on him. So yeah, it felt great. Felt good on this one.
I mean, if there was any worry for you, man, that the fans might not have enjoyed it, I mean, I thought it was an absolutely cracking fight. I mean, you said you weren't happy with your last performance, but I mean, this one started with an absolute bang. You guys both had your moments sort of back and forward. As you said, you didn't take sort of anything in terms of damage. It was incredible getting that finish. What a way to win your first title. So, I mean, could have you done any better? I don't think so. That was a fantastic way to sort of get the ball rolling for you as a flyweight, and we move on to bigger and better things. I mean, I just want to ask a bit about your dynamic too. I mean, you're a busy guy. I'm sure you're probably straight back into the gym as soon as that you had that flyweight title around your belt. But I mean, you also own and run the Drilich Combat Academy. You're fighting out of Scrappy MMA. There's a lot of things you got going on. Can you talk a little bit about that dynamic and how you sort of manage everything in terms of what you do as a mixed martial artist overall?
So, firstly, the moment I won that belt, I went backstage, and I remember the first thing my brother tells me is good job and all, but we've got an open day. So we had our open day for our new gym in Joondalup on Sunday. So the next day, and obviously we've got to prepare, get up early. So I was like, oh, that's great. I'm not damaged, which is nice. I'd love to celebrate, but hey, this is real life. I've got to, I own a gym, my brother. So it was literally straight back to real life the moment I got back backstage, and yeah, I had to get back into it. And then from there, he's like, all right, you're taking the kids' classes on Monday, and yeah, so real life kicked back in, and I just had to keep working and yeah, be an adult, I guess.
That's wild, man. I mean, what a roller coaster ride of emotions that must have been. I mean, whatever you're sort of feeling coming into the fight, and then just an absolute high. And I mean, getting the belt wrapped around your waist, you're the champion, and then straight backstage, not even the next day, you're backstage getting told, hey, it's straight back to work the next day and straight back into normality.
Back to business. That's it.
That's wild, man. I mean, just as far as the Drilich Combat Academy goes, personally, I sort of don't know too much about it, but I mean, was this sort of is this something that's in its infancy? Has this been around for a long time? Are you sort of back and forth there between doing your own training? How does that sort of work in terms of how you manage that business?
So we've been open. Well, this will be our third year, maybe even fourth. So we'll open we've been open for a couple of years. At another gym in Joondalup. Then we decided we wanted to upgrade. Our student member base was increasing, and we wanted to get a better facility. So my brother and myself made that decision that we should obviously open. We seen an opportunity for a new place while I was in camp. So I'll give my brother props for that. He took the majority of all the stresses of getting that gym going while I was in camp. Getting the place built up. All the paperwork and everything else that goes along with it. So he left me just to train in the camp and focus on the fight. And then, yeah, I already knew that once that fight finishes that I'll have to open back up.
Your journey up until now, everything from going down those higher weight classes, through welterweight, through to featherweight, down to bantamweight, becoming the Eternal MMA flyweight champion, 29 years of age, sitting at the prime of your career. What's the vision for the rest of your career, man? What are you setting yourself up for?
UFC, yeah. So, keep winning, keep climbing the ladder, and I'm sure within no time I'll be in the UFC fighting and winning.
I mean, I did think I saw on Instagram there that you had the silver belt, but you're gunning for the gold belt. So I had to imagine that was the UFC belt we're sort of looking forward to there. And what a thing that'd be to see yourself in there with Stephen Nurseg, another Perth boy that you're friends with over competing in the UFC. That'd be absolutely incredible, man. So very much looking forward to what comes for you next, brother. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show for the first time. And we'll look forward to doing it again, man. Thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke.